Hey guys, Vaz here, and I've got to say I really enjoyed that game. I thought I would do my player reviews for the Spurs. I actually finished that game thinking we should have. I felt like we could have got a win from that. I felt like even though the last 10 minutes the Gunners were really pushing towards us, they had a lot of corners sort of given, but under no sort of time did I feel nervous or anxious. I felt like we handled those corners really well, and they looked like they weren't going to score at all. Like I think the goals they scored were from some just silly sort of mistakes there, and there was quite a bit of fortune involved. But in saying that, I think Spurs can definitely hold up heads pretty high, and I feel pretty good. And we're only 6 games in, not like Arteta, who's 5 years into the project there. So I think Arsenal, not to take anything away from them, I think they played relatively well. They tried to sort of push right at the start, and that intensity is just too hard to sort of keep up. And we almost got through the first 30 minutes relatively unscathed. But yeah, after that, I felt like we sort of really came into the game. The last sort of 10 or 15 minutes or so, I think the momentum sort of swung back their way. We were sort of more moving towards a low block, which makes it a bit harder to sort of score against us and create more opportunities. But without further ado, I will go into the player ratings. So for the goalkeeper, Vicario, I'm going to give him 9 out of 10. I felt like there was nothing he'd done wrong. He's solid. Being an ex-goalkeeper myself, short goalkeeper, felt like one thing that hasn't sort of really been brought up is a lot of the takes he was, the times he got outside of his box and had to sort of go out there and grab the ball. He was crowded out a lot of those times there, and he didn't look under distress, didn't see any punches towards really dangerous areas. Thought he'd taken clean takes there. If I was going to sort of pick up on something, that goal that got deflected off Romero, he might have been able to say, head the ball instead or just let it fly, but in the heat of the moment it takes about 1 second and these things sort of happen. I feel like the 2 goals scored against him were unfortunate, unlucky, but he looked really solid. He made some key saves initially. I think there was a back pass from Doggy that was a miss hit, and he stopped a clear opportunity. And the other thing as well, just his attitude. He didn't berate the players, he didn't make them feel like crap after a couple of mistakes were made. He was propping the players up. He went around and hugged Romero as well. I thought that was pretty cool to sort of see. Yeah, and just the only other thing is, like, I thought some of his distribution going out long, I think he tried that once, sort of a little bit wayward there, but felt like he received a lot of back passes, really distributed the ball there. But what a goalkeeper that we sort of picked up with, so really happy with that. So happy with a 9. So in the left back, I will give you Doggy a 7. Felt like the first 20 minutes or so, really up until he picked up that yellow card, Saka had his in his pocket. To be honest, there, I think not to taking away from anything from Doggy, but Saka is world class. He is probably one of the second. He's probably the second best right winger in the league there. His dribbling ability, his crossing ability. He draws fouls, which is what he did. So he had to play a little bit cautious after the first 15 minutes or so, but he did. I had a strong feeling he'd be sent off. Didn't happen. He also was involved in one of the goals. He sort of helped sort of drive forward, making one of his trademark runs as well. So I felt the longer the game went, he held up really, really well. He's going to get a tougher chest next week versus Mo Salah. So I think today he sort of proved himself, but he also got a lot of support from this fella here, my man of the match, Van de Ven. I didn't see anything wrong with this guy done. He tracked back runs, he provided cover at times, he cut off a potential goal scoring opportunity as well. And the reason why I don't think Hidoghi was actually sent off was Van de Ven was actually pushing a little bit closer to him. So if Udogie lost possession, also worked around him, that's okay. You got Van der Ven, who could keep up with Bukayo Saka. So I felt like he was really good. He had, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being, if he sticks around longer term, he could be a potential future club captain. And also, as the game opened up, he provided a lot of drive sort of going forward as well. So I really like seeing that side of him sort of, stretching out his long legs, sort of pushing that ball forward. So my personal man of the match, and I'd love to see more performances like that. Right centre back, Romero. I'm going to give him a 7. The reason being, yes, he let in 2 goals, and so one was an own goal. One he gave away a penalty. I thought both of them were fairly unlucky. I felt the one he stuck his leg out, he probably could have stuck his leg out a little bit better, a bit more firmer, just redirected it in. It just sometimes happens as well. I think the penalty was just really unlucky. I think it was penalty that can sort of go either way. I felt like it was on the other side. We would have complained if we sort of didn't get that. So I think it was fair to be provided that penalty. I don't think he'd done anything wrong. I think when you're sort of falling down, you're sort of putting your hands up here. It's very hard. It's unnatural to sort of fall down and fall down like that. So, but in saying that, outside of those 2 instances, he didn't really see any mistakes. He picked up his man, he drove that forward, he didn't lose possession in sort of key areas. So felt like it was a decent performance. He was just a bit unlucky, and some people might say 7's a bit optimistic there, but I don't think really those 2 chances were really his fault. On the right back, Pedro Porro, I think he wasn't really worked over at all. I can't remember in this instance of the game where he lost possession. He received a lot of back passes under pressure as well. Couldn't drive as far. I think Arsenal sort of shut down that midfield to an extent, certainly towards the early side of the game. But defensively, I thought he was great. There's a few question marks there, so really happy with what he sort of provided. And also, going forward, couldn't see too many key crosses throughout the game that I can sort of recall there. But one thing that allows him to look more assured defensively is the work that's done by Dejan Kulusevski, which I'll talk about soon. So yeah, I'll give him a solid 8. I don't think anything he done was particularly wrong, and he looks solid as well. So in the centre defensive midfield, Yves Bissouma, feel like he looked a little bit lethargic the first 30 minutes. It's hard to always see. You sort of watch on TV, miss out on the wide sort of action. He cuts out a lot of key sort of passes as well, and towards the end of the game, he cut out one sort of pass that he sort of saw out, and I think that's world class. You can sort of see you're playing £100 million midfielder at the moment. I feel like he completely shut down Odegaard as well. He sort of barely got to see Odegaard throughout the whole sort of match there. Him and Sarr. Where I'm sort of a little bit disappointed by is I would have expected a little bit more intensity. I think sometimes he can just sit in the ball just that fraction too long, a little bit more willing to take on the risk, take his man on early in the game. But in saying that, second half, he just absolutely bossed it, came in massive there. And the further the sort of game got on, even though he was gassed, that's when the game started opening up a little bit more. You can see his trademark drives a bit more prominent. And when he sort of turned his man, world class, absolutely exceptional. So, yeah, it wasn't an exceptional game for him. It was a good game as well. So, I'm going to give him an 8. I think he played reasonably well, and hope to see him pick up his game and be man of the match for next week versus Liverpool. Now, to the right of that, I am going to pick Pape Matar. I think he was energetic, so I'll give him a 7. Energetic, lively, really helped sort of shut down Arsenal's midfield to an extent. He's not a dribbly boy, so he's not the lad that can sort of really go up there and sort of weave his way through people. He plays short, direct, but progressive passes as well. one area I'd like to sort of see him improve, and he's still quite young, right? Is his ability to have those shots outside the goal, because he gets himself into really good goal-scoring positions, and a lot of times he takes a shot and goal, he absolutely skies it. So that's one area I'd love to see him improve on, but solid performance, can see him certainly in the lineup next week. And on the upside of that, James Maddison, one of the best players on the pitch as well, and and it gives me a lot of joy to sort of say this when you've got so many people that have a great run on the pitch there, on the field, and there's 4 or 5 players that stand out, but I don't feel anyone really had a bad game, so digressive there. But Maddison, the only reason why I sort of gave him an 8, 7, 9 is he received a pass under pressure, he gave it away. Arsenal should have done better with that. They should have scored from it, so I think we're very lucky not to get scored from as well. But he was directly involved in those 2 goal-scoring opportunities that we sort of created. The way he stole the ball off, and sort of just that pass to Son was world class as well. So done the job, looked solid, turned his man, typical trademark performance. Nothing else to sort of say apart from that. I just hope that he hasn't picked up a serious injury. He's out for a sort of a few weeks. I just did see him sort of go down. He sort of ran for a little bit, but sometimes you feel with these things, you don't really feel it until after the game. So hopefully, fingers crossed that he's fit and ready to go next week. But I feel like if there's a bit of a niggle, he might not start next week. Just my thoughts. And on the right wing, I feel like this guy hasn't been talked enough. I've always wanted to see a bit more intensity from him. But in saying that there, I feel like he played really well. He allows Porro to look better than what he can sort of be defensively. He tracks back a lot, he covers his man a hell of a lot. He's one of the hardest working players in the Premier League at the moment. He creates opportunities at the front there. Yes, I think at times could his dribbling in the box be a little bit better? Can he be a little bit predictable? Yes, he can be. But I just think his work rate, which Postecoglou really values, he likes those hard-working runners on the field there. And I just felt like he was able to just drive forward a lot, but sometimes he just didn't have that support going up with him. There's a few opportunities when he sort of did get up there. He sort of held the ball relatively well. Just didn't have enough support up there. I feel like next week he's an absolute sort of key player. He's a really physical type of player there, and we saw that in this game. So I feel like if he was injured, it would have a big impact on our bottom line. So yeah, solid game from him. I'm going to give him an 8 as well. And off the left wing, Brennan Johnson, I'm going to give him a 7. It would have been awesome if he scored those goals from those shots, but didn't quite happen. I think he's actually a really good striker from a goal. He's still quite young. I think there's a lot of opportunity out there as well. So his pace, didn't really see that come out this much today. I think he was sort of covered somewhat. And I also think the goal that was scored, the first goal that was scored, there was a bit of miscommunication between himself and Udogie, where he trucked a runner, whereas Udogie should have gone and tracked a runner, and Johnson should have gone and marked Saka, is what my initial thoughts were. So I think defensively he's got quite a bit of work to do, but he's quite young. That's certainly coachable, and that's a known sort of entity. Even when we sort of recruited him, it was known that defensively he needed to sort of do work, but looked like he looked really solid. Hope he hasn't picked up a serious sort of injury there. It was great to sort of see him make a start there. I think he adds a lot of dynamism to the team as well. So hopefully it's nothing too serious and we see him back relatively soon. And the last person, Heung-min Son, I'm going to give him an 8.5. Sitting in between the fence with this one here, I feel like there was 2 opportunities certainly one opportunity he probably could have done a little bit better from. I think he hit it in the side net towards the later half of the game. Felt like he was taken off a little bit too early. I reckon if he had an extra 10 minutes or so, something could have happened. But feel like with a massive game next week, Postecoglou didn't want to obviously sort of risk out there. And he also plays with a high level of intensity. He was slowing down somewhat as well, and that's a really, really draining thing. Like all the games I've seen him play, it's run, push their back line, make them work, and he's a world-class player as well. So that's my ratings for the first 11 team, and from there, going to basically the subs, felt like Højbjerg, Solomon, Richie as well. Didn't see too much exceptional from them. I think Richie is going to really struggle without Perisic. I think Perisic is a world-class crosser. That's his natural instinct. Richie's great with his head there. And I also feel like in high pressing teams, Richie will tend to struggle. I think he's a better player in the low block. He can sort of hold up, bring other people in play. It would have been awesome to sort of see him score with that last shot. It was a little bit further. He tested it. I think it got a deflection, that let it out. But yeah, and that's my ratings for the players. And lastly, my rating for Postecoglou, I'm going to give him a solid 8. The only criticism I have with him, I just wish he left on Son for about an extra 10 minutes. Maddison, I can understand you're receiving a knock. You sort of want to be a little bit conservative with that. I'd certainly understand that. Because I think Son would have been great to see him on there for another 10 minutes or so there. I think tactically, he wasn't outplayed. I think we could have easily got a victory from that there. I thought his subs were relatively well timed, bar Son, and just his ability to sort of remain calm, not flustered. I think that's absolutely key there. So overall, great game. Bring on Liverpool and comedy Spurs.